The night was quiet, too quiet. The streets were empty and the houses all dark. Only one house still had a little light in the window. Inside, a man named Daniel sat alone. Reading an old book, he liked the silence. The kind of silence where the world feels asleep. But that night, silence was broken. Knock, 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 the sound was sharp. Strange and heavy, Daniel froze, his heart thumping fast. Who would knock at his door so late? Almost midnight, he lived at the edge of town. Far from neighbors, no one ever came here. He stood up slowly, listening again. Another knock, louder this time. Daniel whispered to himself, "Who is it at this hour?" He walked to the door, careful, quiet. He felt the air grow colder as if something outside pulled the warmth away. His hand reached for the lock, shaking a little. He opened the door just a crack. And what he saw made him stop breathing. A woman stood there. Or at least she looked like a woman at first. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Covered in dust, her skin was pale, too pale, almost glowing under the moonlight. Her eyes were not human, big and shining. Like twin pieces of silver glass, she looked weak, trembling. Her hands shaking. In one hand she held 3 crumpled dollar bills, and with a broken, soft voice she whispered, "I only have $3. Please, let me shower at your home." Human, Daniel blinked, confused, frightened. The word human echoed in his ears. Who talks like that unless they are not human themselves? He stared at her eyes, at her strange skin. He felt danger. But also something else, pity, maybe even sorrow. Who are you?" Daniel asked, his voice unsteady. She looked at him, tears mixing with the dirt on her face. "Please." "I will explain. Just a shower. Only water." Her voice broke like she carried 1,000 wounds. Daniel's mind raced. This was madness. Was she crazy, or was she truly not from this world? He looked around the street, empty, silent, but it felt wrong. The shadows seemed alive, watching. He wanted to close the door, to shut her out. But then he looked at her hands, trembling. Holding those $3 as if they meant something, he thought, why money? Why ask me out of everyone? Daniel sighed, fear burning in his chest. "All right," he said, opening the door wider. "You can come in." But only for a moment. Her eyes widened. A strange mix of relief and fear. She stepped inside, moving carefully. Almost like every step hurt. The moment she crossed the doorway, Daniel felt the air change. The house grew colder. The lights flickered. He shivered, wondering if he had just made the worst mistake of his life. The alien woman looked at him, whispering, "Thank you, human. You do not understand what you have done." Daniel frowned, uneasy. "Then make me understand." She shook her head, her silver eyes wet. "No time now. If they find me here, you will be in danger too." His stomach dropped. "Who is they?" he asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the bathroom door as if it was her only hope. Her body swayed, almost falling. Daniel rushed to help her, but stopped when he saw strange marks on her arm. Not tattoos, not wounds. Something glowing faintly under her skin, like patterns of fire. "What are you?" he whispered. She only said, "Please, water." Daniel nodded slowly and guided her toward the bathroom. Every step she took left a faint trace of black dust on the floor. Like ashes falling, he felt like he was walking beside a ghost. But no ghost ever called him human in that way. No ghost ever looked so broken, so hunted. When the bathroom door closed, Daniel leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His heart raced as he heard the shower turn on. Water splashed, and he imagined the dirt, the scars, the alien dust washing away. But then, the lights flickered again, this time stronger. The window rattled, and far above the house a glow lit the sky. Daniel ran to the window and looked out. At first he thought it was a plane, but no, it was too strange. 3 lights moved slowly across the clouds. Not like anything human-made, they hovered, scanning, searching, and then one light stopped, pointing down. Directly at his house, Daniel's throat went dry. His mind screamed at him, "You should never have opened the door." But it was too late. The hunted alien was in his house. And now the hunters had arrived. The water began to run, a steady hiss that filled the silence of the small house. Daniel stood outside the bathroom door, his hands shaking. His ears listening to every drop. It felt strange, unreal. An alien in his bathroom, using his shower, holding 3 crumpled dollars like they could buy her safety. He leaned against the wall, trying to calm his thoughts. But the sound of the water only made his nerves worse. Inside, the alien woman stepped under the stream. The first touch of water made her gasp, almost cry. For a moment she just stood there, letting the warm water fall on her face. Dirt and dust ran down her skin. But the water was not only brown, it turned dark. Like black smoke dissolving into liquid, the drain swallowed strange streaks of ash and color that were not human dirt at all. Her arms trembled as she rubbed them, and Daniel outside heard a muffled sound like a choked sob. He pressed his hand against the door, unsure if he should speak. But curiosity burned in him. He whispered, "What are you hiding from?" No answer, only the steady hiss of the shower. Minutes passed, and Daniel felt the room grow heavy. The lights flickered again, just like before. The air was colder now, his breath faintly visible in front of him. He walked toward the window, pulling the curtain back carefully. The glowing lights in the sky were still there, hovering like predators waiting to strike. They moved in patterns, slow but precise, as if searching for something. Or someone. Daniel's chest tightened. He thought of her words. "If they find me here, you will be in danger too." He clenched his fists. Torn between anger and fear, why had he opened the door? Why had he said yes? The water stopped. The sudden silence was louder than the noise. Daniel turned quickly, staring at the bathroom door. A few seconds later, it creaked open. She stood there wrapped in one of his towels, her wet hair clinging to her strange pale skin. Her eyes, silver and glowing softly, looked clearer now without the dust. But Daniel saw more. Her skin carried scars, lines too straight, too sharp to be natural, like someone had carved into her flesh. And under the water, those glowing marks were brighter, moving faintly as if alive. Daniel stepped back, shocked. "What happened to you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She looked at him, sadness heavy in her gaze. "They marked me," she said, her voice low. "They made me their property." Daniel swallowed hard. "Who are they?" Her lips trembled, and she sat slowly on the couch, her body weak. "They are hunters, soldiers of an empire you cannot imagine. They take the weak, use them, break them. I escaped. But escape has a price." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "You're saying they'll come here? To Earth?" She nodded, her wet hair dripping on the floor. "If they smell me, if they scan me, they will burn this place down to ashes. You should have left me outside." Daniel clenched his jaw. His instinct screamed to push her out, to save himself. But another part of him, the part that made him open the door in the first place, could not do it. He looked at her again, at the way she clutched the towel as if holding on to life itself, at the way her body trembled, like she had run too far for too long. "Why me?" Daniel asked suddenly. "Why knock on my door? Out of everyone, why choose me?" Her silver eyes locked on his. "Because you opened it," she whispered. "No other human would have. You still believe in mercy. That is rare." Daniel felt the weight of her words sink into him. He wanted to argue, but deep inside he knew she was right. Most people would have shut the door, but he didn't. Now he was part of something bigger, something dangerous outside. A low hum shook the walls. Daniel ran to the window again, and his blood ran cold. One of the lights in the sky was lowering, coming closer. It hovered above the street like a silent predator. A strange pulse of blue light swept across the ground, scanning, searching. It moved closer to his house. "They're here," she whispered. Standing weakly but with fear burning in her voice, Daniel turned to her. "Then tell me how to stop them." She shook her head quickly. "You can't fight them. No human can. They will tear this place apart." Her glowing scars flickered, and she held her arm in pain. "They are linked to me. They will follow the mark until they find me." Daniel's chest pounded. He felt trapped, his small house now a cage with hunters circling outside. But something inside him lit a spark of anger. He was human, and he wouldn't let strangers burn his world without a fight. He grabbed a baseball bat from behind the door, gripping it tight. Maybe it was foolish, maybe it was suicide, but it was courage. The alien woman looked at him, almost shocked. "You would risk your life for me?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I already did." "When I opened the door," he said. But before he could say more, a sharp sound cut the air. A metallic thud hit the roof, shaking the walls, then another, heavier, like armored boots landing from above. The house trembled under the weight. Daniel's heart sank as shadows moved across the ceiling. The hunters had found them. The roof groaned under the weight. Daniel's heart pounded like a drum. He gripped the baseball bat tighter, though he knew wood would be nothing against what was landing above him. The alien woman's silver eyes widened, fear flashing like lightning in her face. "They are here," she whispered, her voice breaking. The ceiling shook again. Dust falling into Daniel's hair, he held his breath, listening. Heavy footsteps moved across the roof. Slow, careful, as if testing the structure. Then came another sound, a hiss. Metallic and sharp like machines breathing. Daniel's skin crawled. "Get down," she said urgently, pulling him toward the corner of the room. But he stood frozen, staring upward. The footsteps stopped and silence returned. "Too silent, too wrong," he whispered. "What are they doing?" She answered in a low, trembling voice. "Scanning. They can smell me." A flash of blue light cut through the window. Sweeping across the room, Daniel ducked, dragging her with him. The light passed, humming softly, then vanished. Outside, he heard another sound and more footsteps, this time in the street. He crawled to the window and peeked through the curtains. His chest locked tight. 3 tall figures moved across the street. They were not like the woman, not broken, not weak. They were armored, tall as shadows with glowing helmets. Their bodies shimmered with strange technology that bent the air around them. One held a long staff that hummed. The other carried a scanner that blinked red. The last one carried nothing, but Daniel felt its presence most. It moved like a predator, calm and certain. "They are hunters," she whispered again, pulling at his arm. "We must hide," Daniel turned to her. "Where?" "They're outside, they're on the roof. Where can we hide?" Her gaze locked on him, desperate. The basement, Daniel's mind raced. The basement was small, dusty, and filled with old junk. But it was the only place below ground, maybe thick enough to block the scan. He nodded quickly, helping her up. Together they crept down the stairs, every step groaning under their weight. The basement smelled of old wood and earth. Daniel shut the door quietly, locking it with trembling hands. They crouched in the darkness, their breathing loud in their own ears. The woman pressed her glowing arm against her chest, trying to hide the faint light. But Daniel still saw it leaking through the towel, glowing like a signal. "They will find us," she said, her voice weak. "Not if we stay quiet," Daniel replied, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Above them, the hunter's footsteps grew louder. They entered the house, the sound of metal boots striking wood. The floor creaked under their heavy weight. Daniel's heart nearly stopped when one of them spoke. The voice was metallic, distorted, but clear. "She is close. The scent is fresh," another voice replied. "Then we take her alive. The master wants the last one whole." Daniel felt the alien woman shiver beside him. She closed her eyes, whispering, "I cannot go back. I will not." The hunters moved through the house, scanning. The hum of their devices filled the air like angry insects. The light from their scanners shone through the cracks in the basement door. Red beams danced across the wood. Daniel held his breath, pressing himself against the wall. The alien woman buried her face in her hands, muffling her sound. The footsteps stopped directly above the basement. Daniel's stomach twisted. One of the hunters spoke again. "She is here. Below us." Daniel's blood turned cold. The woman clutched his arm, her silver eyes wide with terror. "Run," she whispered, "and please run. Save yourself." But Daniel shook his head, whispering back, "No. I opened the door. I will not leave you." A heavy crash shattered the silence. The hunters began to tear at the basement door, metal claws scraping, wood splintering. Dust rained down as the hinges cracked. Daniel raised the baseball bat, though it felt ridiculous in his hands. The woman pushed herself in front of him, her glowing scars pulsing like fire. "Stay behind me," she said, her voice suddenly stronger. Her body shook, but Daniel saw her arm burning with strange light. The hunters ripped the door wide open. 3 towering figures stood in the frame. Glowing eyes staring into the darkness, the one with the staff stepped forward, pointing directly at her. "There you are," it said, its voice filled with cold victory. "The runaway." Daniel's grip tightened on the bat, his chest burning with fear and anger. The alien woman stood taller, her silver eyes blazing now. "I will never be yours again," she spat. Her glowing arm flared brighter, casting shadows across the basement walls. The hunter raised its staff, energy crackling at the tip. Daniel's instincts screamed. He swung the bat with all his strength. Smashing it into the staff, sparks flew. The basement filled with light and noise. The hunter staggered back, surprised. Daniel shouted, his voice filled with raw courage. "You want her? You'll have to go through me first." The hunters stepped closer, their weapons glowing. The air grew hot, vibrating with deadly power. The alien woman grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him back. Her marks glowed so bright now they hurt his eyes. Her voice thundered, not weak but fierce. "Then we fight." The basement walls shook as the hunters charged. And the battle began. The basement shook as the hunters forced their way inside. Dust fell from the ceiling. Shadows danced in the flickering light. Daniel stood ready, his baseball bat raised. Though he knew wood was nothing against alien steel, still he refused to step back. Something deep inside him had already decided. He would not surrender her. The alien woman moved in front of him, her glowing scars burning brighter, her silver eyes narrowed, her body trembling as if some hidden power stirred awake. The hunters paused for a moment, their helmets reflecting the strange light from her arm. One hissed in its metallic voice. "She carries the mark. The master will be pleased." Daniel's anger flared. He shouted, "She's not yours," and swung the bat with all his strength. The blow struck the hunter's staff, sparks flying once again. But this time, instead of retreating, the hunter shoved forward, its strength overwhelming. Daniel crashed into the wall, the bat snapping in half. Pain shot through his ribs, but he forced himself back up. The woman screamed, her glowing marks flaring like fire. A sudden burst of energy exploded from her skin, a wave of light and sound. The hunters stumbled back, their scanners flickering, their armor crackling with static. Daniel stared in shock. "What? What did you just do?" Her voice trembled as she whispered, "A piece of what they left inside me, something I never asked for." Her arm pulsed again, glowing veins stretching across her body. She fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Daniel rushed to her side, holding her shoulders. "Stay with me. What's happening to you?" She looked at him, her face pale but her eyes fierce. "They changed me, broke me. I was not born with this light. They put it in me, experiments, pain, endless cages. I am their weapon and also their prisoner." Daniel felt his stomach twist. He had thought she was only running for freedom, but now he saw the truth. She was something much more dangerous, not just a victim, but a secret. A living weapon stolen from her masters. The hunters recovered quickly, their voices cold. "Do not resist, subject. The master wants you alive." One raised its staff. Glowing with deadly energy, Daniel pulled the woman to the corner of the basement, his heart racing. "We need to move. We can't fight them head on." Her eyes closed for a moment, tears running down her cheeks. "You should not be here, human. My curse will kill you too." But Daniel shook his head, his grip tight on her arm. "Then it kills us both. I don't care." For a moment she looked at him, truly looked, and in her gaze was something strange. Shock, but also respect, maybe even hope. No one had ever said such words to her before. Her people had died. Her captors had called her only a tool. But this human, fragile and weak, was choosing to stay. The hunters advanced again, stepping carefully into the basement. Their scanners lit up, locking onto her glowing marks. Daniel felt the air grow hotter, the machines charging for an attack. The woman whispered, "If I release more, it will destroy them, but also destroy me." Daniel's throat tightened. He had to make a choice. Let her burn herself alive or risk another plan. "What if we hide you? Block the signal somehow?" he asked quickly. She shook her head. "The mark is alive. It cannot be hidden, only removed. But removal means death." The hunters raised their weapons. A voice thundered through the basement. "Surrender or burn." Daniel's mind raced. He looked around desperately. Old boxes, shelves, rusted tools, nothing that could stop armored aliens. And yet he refused to give up. Something sparked in him, the same reckless courage that had made him open the door. He whispered, "Then we fight smart." The hunters stepped closer, their glowing eyes fixed on the alien woman. Daniel grabbed a heavy chain from the wall, wrapping it around his fist. He waited until the first hunter came close. Then, with all his strength, he swung the chain across its helmet. The blow echoed, sparks flying. The hunter staggered, its scanner device dropping to the floor. Daniel stomped on it, shattering the glass. The other hunters hissed in fury, their weapons glowing brighter. The woman's marks pulsed again. As if responding to their rage, she gasped, gripping her chest. Daniel caught her before she fell. Her voice broke as she whispered, "They will never stop. Unless—" Her words trailed off, unfinished. Her silver eyes locked on him, full of unspoken truth. Daniel's breath quickened. "Unless what? Tell me." But before she could answer, the ceiling above them cracked open. More hunters dropped into the basement, their armor shining, their numbers overwhelming, the room filled with red light and metallic echoes. The woman screamed as her marks flared uncontrollably. Light spilling across the basement walls, Daniel shielded his eyes. His heart hammering, her voice thundered. Not weak, but powerful. They gave me their curse. But tonight I give it back. Her entire body glowed like fire. The hunters staggered, shielding themselves from the sudden burst. Daniel stared in shock, his mind torn between fear and awe. For the first time he saw what she truly was. Not just a refugee, not just a victim, but something far more dangerous. And as the basement shook under the explosion of her power, Daniel realized the truth. If she lost control now, it would not be only the hunters who burned. It would be the entire house. Maybe even the entire street. The basement was chaos. Light exploded from the alien woman's body, shaking the walls and blinding the hunters. Daniel covered his face, the heat burning against his skin. For a moment, it felt like the entire house would collapse into fire. Then silence when the light faded. Daniel opened his eyes. The hunters staggered, their armor smoking, their scanners fried. But more of them were coming. Heavy boots thundered above, crashing through the house. They would not stop, not until they had her. The woman fell into Daniel's arms. Weak but alive, her glowing marks dimmed, flickering like dying embers. "We cannot stay," she whispered, her voice rough. "They will burn this place. All of it." Daniel clenched his jaw, pulling her to her feet. "Then we run," he said, his voice hard. He grabbed his car keys, half dragging her up the basement stairs. The front door was broken, splintered by the hunters outside. The night sky burned with strange lights. 3 ships hovered above, beams of blue light sweeping across the neighborhood. Daniel's stomach knotted. This was no longer just about his house. The entire street was now a hunting ground. They stumbled to his old car, a rusted sedan that barely ran. Daniel shoved her into the passenger seat, started the engine, and prayed. The car roared to life with a painful cough. He hit the gas, tires screeching as the car shot down the empty road. Behind them, the hunters poured out of the house. Their glowing weapons raised, a ship turned. Its beam locking on the fleeing car, Daniel's heart pounded, his hands gripping the wheel so hard they hurt. The woman clutched the dashboard, her silver eyes wide. "They will follow. Until I am caught," Daniel's voice cracked. "Then we make sure they don't." The beam hit the road behind them, blasting concrete into the air. The car shook, nearly flipping, but Daniel forced it forward. Streetlights exploded as the ship followed overhead. Every second was a fight to stay alive. Daniel swerved into back roads, speeding through alleys and broken fences. The car rattled like it would fall apart at any moment. The woman gasped, her glowing marks flaring again. "They will call more ships." "They never stop," Daniel snapped. "Then tell me what they fear." She looked at him, her voice soft but firm. "They fear only one thing, failure. If I escape long enough, their masters will punish them worse than death." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Then we keep running." The car shot onto the highway, empty at this late hour. Behind them, 2 hunter ships followed, their lights scanning across the dark fields. One fired again, a beam slicing across the road. Daniel swerved hard, sparks flying as the car scraped the guardrail. The smell of burning rubber filled the air. The woman groaned, clutching her chest. Her marks glowed brighter as if feeding off the danger. Daniel glanced at her, sweat dripping from his face. "Don't give up now. I didn't risk everything just to watch you quit." Her eyes flicked toward him, a strange look in them, not fear, not despair, but something else. Trust. Another explosion rocked the highway. The car leapt into the air for a moment before slamming down again. Metal screamed, glass shattered. Daniel kept control barely, but the fuel gauge dipped lower, the engine coughing. He cursed under his breath. This car wouldn't last much longer. The ship circled closer, their hum filling the night sky. One hunter leaned from a hatch, raising its weapon. Daniel's blood ran cold. But before it fired, the woman raised her glowing arm out the window. Her marks blazed like fire. A sudden burst of light shot into the sky, striking the hunter directly. The ship wobbled, its lights flickering, and it spun away, crashing into the trees. Daniel stared in shock. You can fight them." She shook her head weakly. "Not for long. Each time I use this, it kills me a little more." Her voice broke, but her eyes were firm. "But if it saves you, then I will use it." Daniel's chest tightened. This alien woman, broken and hunted, was ready to die for him. And he, just a human with no power, was ready to die for her. It was madness, but it was also something stronger than fear. The last ship roared closer. Its beam locking onto the car, Daniel slammed the wheel. Driving off the highway into a dirt road, the car bounced wildly, mud flying, branches snapping against the windshield. The ship followed, tearing through the trees. Daniel's eyes darted, searching desperately for cover. A tunnel appeared ahead, an old railway underpass, narrow and dark. He pressed the gas, the car racing toward it. The woman looked at him, fear and hope mixing in her eyes. "Are you sure?" "No," Daniel admitted, "but it's better than dying in the open." They shot into the tunnel, the walls scraping the car as sparks flew. The ship screamed above, too large to follow, but its beam pierced the tunnel entrance, blasting concrete and shaking the ground. The car swerved, nearly flipping. Daniel fought the wheel, his knuckles white behind them. The hunters roared in fury. The tunnel grew darker, tighter, and at the far end, Daniel saw something that made his heart stop. The tunnel was blocked, collapsed years ago, a solid wall of stone and steel. No way forward, no way out. Daniel slammed the brakes. The car skidding, tires screaming. The woman gasped, her silver eyes wide in horror. The ship circled above, its beam charging again. Trapped, cornered, nowhere to run. The car skidded to a stop, tires screaming against the tunnel floor. Dust rose in the air, thick and choking. In front of them was nothing but stone and steel. A dead end behind them. The hum of the hunter ship echoed, its beam charging, ready to burn the tunnel to ash. Daniel's chest tightened, his hand still gripping the wheel. His mind screamed, "This is the end." But then he looked at her. The alien woman sitting weak in the passenger seat, her glowing scars trembling like fading fire. She stared at him, her silver eyes wide. Fear mixed with something deeper, not despair, expectation. As if she wanted to see what choice he would make. Daniel exhaled slowly. "All this running," he muttered, his voice low but steady. "It ends now." He pushed the car into reverse, the engine roaring in protest. The headlights cut through the dust, revealing the tunnel behind them. The ship hovered at the entrance, blocking the only escape. Its weapons hummed, glowing brighter. The hunters inside laughed in their cold, metallic voices. Cornered prey. No more running. Daniel's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. "No," he whispered, "not prey." He floored the gas. The car racing backward down the tunnel. The alien woman gasped, clutching the seat. "What are you doing?" Daniel's eyes burned with fury, showing them what it means to fight a human. The ship fired. A beam slicing into the tunnel walls. Rocks exploded. Sparks rained down. The car shook but kept moving. Daniel swerved left and right, avoiding falling debris. His heart pounded. But his grip was steady. Fear was there. Yes, but fear was not in control. The hunters lowered the ship. Preparing to crush the car, Daniel jerked the wheel, sliding the sedan sideways. The car smashed into an old service ladder leaning against the tunnel wall. The ladder snapped, crashing onto the hood of the ship, sparks flying for a moment. The hunters staggered, their control broken. Daniel didn't waste the chance. "Now," he shouted. The alien woman raised her arm, her glowing scars blazing bright again. She screamed as the light burst out, slamming into the ship's engines. The air shook, the tunnel filled with thunder. The ship spun out of control, crashing against the tunnel ceiling. Metal screaming, flames burst, smoke filled the air. The car slid to a stop. Daniel coughing hard, his chest burning. The woman collapsed, the glow fading from her arm. Her voice was weak. I cannot do this again." Daniel caught her before she hit the floor. He held her close, his voice rough but steady. "Then don't. Leave the rest to me." Her silver eyes widened, confusion breaking through her exhaustion. "You? Against them?" Daniel gave a small, bitter smile. "Yeah, me. They think humans are weak. Time to prove them wrong." Above the tunnel, more ships roared in the sky, their shadows blotting out the stars. The hunters were regrouping, ready to strike again. Daniel's eyes hardened. He looked at the broken tools scattered in the tunnel, the smashed ladder, the burning wreckage. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a hero, but he was human. And humans didn't quit. He pulled the woman to her feet, supporting her with one arm. "We get out of this tunnel," he said, "and then we fight back. Not run." She stared at him, weak but amazed. "No one has ever said those words to me. Not in all my life," Daniel smirked, though his heart still raced. "Get used to it." They stumbled out of the tunnel, the cold night air hitting their faces. The sky above burned with light, ships circling like vultures. The neighborhood was gone. Houses destroyed, flames rising. Everything Daniel knew had been erased in hours. His home, his street, his quiet life, all gone. But inside him, something new burned. A fire stronger than fear. He turned to the alien woman, his voice firm. "No more hiding if they want you." "They'll have to fight me first," she whispered. Her voice breaking. "You are only human. They are soldiers, machines, killers. You cannot win." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Maybe not. But humans don't need to be the strongest to win. We only need to be the ones who refuse to fall." The ships lowered, beams locking on them again. Hunters dropped from the sky, their heavy boots slamming into the ground. The metallic voices echoed, "Subject, surrender, human." "Step aside." Daniel stepped forward instead. His fists clenched, his eyes blazing. He shouted, his voice raw with fury. "You want her? You'll go through me first." The hunters laughed, a cruel, cold sound. They raised their weapons, the hum of energy filling the night air. The alien woman clutched his arm, her voice trembling. "They will kill you, please. Do not—" But Daniel cut her off, his voice steady. "Then let them try." He bent down, grabbing a broken piece of metal pipe from the ground. It was nothing compared to their weapons, but it was enough. He stood tall, ready. For the first time, he wasn't running. For the first time, he was fighting. The hunters charged, their glowing eyes locked on him. The night roared with the sound of war, and Daniel, only human, fragile and small, roared back. The hunters closed in, their glowing eyes piercing the smoke and fire. Daniel gripped the rusted pipe tighter, his hands bleeding but steady. The alien woman stood behind him, her silver eyes wide, her glowing scars flickering like dying embers. Above, the ship circled lower, beams of blue light sweeping across the broken ground. The night had become a battlefield. The lead hunter stepped forward, its staff humming with deadly power. It raised the weapon, voice metallic and cruel, "Human, step aside, this is not your war." Daniel spat blood, his chest heaving. "It is now," he growled. The hunters charged, their weapons sparking. Daniel roared back, swinging the pipe with all his strength. The first blow connected, smashing into a hunter's helmet. Sparks exploded, the creature staggered. The others raised their weapons, energy flaring. Daniel ducked, rolled, and swung again. Every strike was desperate, wild, but filled with raw determination. The alien woman stumbled forward, her glowing marks flaring weakly. She raised her arm, a burst of light shooting out, knocking one hunter back, but the effort nearly collapsed her. Daniel caught her with one arm, pulling her close. "Stay with me," he shouted. Her voice cracked. "I cannot." "It's killing me." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then let me fight for you," he said. He shoved her gently behind him. Standing tall, the hunters closed in again, circling like wolves, their voices cold. "One human cannot stop us. You are nothing." Daniel's eyes burned with fire. "Maybe," he said, his voice low but firm. "But nothing is harder to kill than a human who refuses to fall." He swung again, smashing the pipe into another weapon. Sparks flying, the hunter staggered, surprised. Daniel pressed the attack, reckless but fierce. Every move screamed one truth. He would not give up. The alien woman watched, tears streaming down her face. She had seen warriors, soldiers, empires rise and fall, but never this. A fragile creature of flesh and bone standing against machines built for war. Not with power, not with technology, but with will. Her silver eyes burned brighter. She felt something awaken deep inside her, not the mark they forced on her, not the curse of the hunters, but something older, something she thought she had lost, hope. The hunters struck back, their staff slamming into Daniel's side. He fell to the ground, coughing blood. The alien woman screamed, running to his side. "Daniel!" she cried, her voice breaking. He pushed himself up, his body shaking but his eyes still blazing. "I'm not done yet," he whispered. He staggered to his feet, lifting the pipe again. The hunters laughed, cruel and mocking. But then, the ground shook. The crashed hunter ship in the distance began to burn hotter. Flames spreading. The woman's glowing scars flared again. Brighter than ever, she looked at Daniel, her voice fierce now. "Together," she said. Daniel nodded, his grip tightening. "Together," she raised her arm, light bursting from her scars. Daniel charged forward, pipe swinging. The two forces collided with a thunderous roar. Hunters were blinded by light, struck down by human fury and alien fire. One by one they fell, their weapons sparking, their armor breaking. The lead hunter roared, raising its staff for the final strike. Daniel met it head-on, smashing the pipe into its chest. The alien woman unleashed all her light at once, her body glowing like a star. The explosion tore through the night, shaking the ground, shattering the air. The hunters screamed as their armor melted, their voices fading into nothing. Silence. Smoke drifted across the battlefield, the ships above retreating into the sky. The hunters were gone, broken, defeated. Only Daniel and the woman remained. Both collapsed on the ground, breathing hard. The night was still again. Daniel coughed, blood staining his lips. He turned his head, looking at her. "You alive?" She nodded weakly, her silver eyes glowing softly. "Yes, because of you." He chuckled, the sound rough but proud. "Guess humans aren't so weak after all." She stared at him, her eyes shining with something new. "No, humans are not weak. You are dangerous, more dangerous than any empire knows. You fight even when you cannot win. You fight because you refuse to stop." Daniel smiled faintly, his eyes closing for a moment. "Yeah," he whispered. "That's what makes us human." The alien woman leaned closer, her scars dimming now. She touched his face gently. "Your courage saved me, and maybe your courage will save your world too." Above them, the last of the ships vanished into the sky. The night grew quiet once more. The fire of the battle burned out, leaving only the stars above. Daniel lay on the broken ground, exhausted, but deep inside, he felt something stronger than fear, hope. The alien woman sat beside him, her silver eyes watching the horizon. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe in something better, not because of her power, not because of her escape, but because of one stubborn human who refused to fall, and somewhere far away in the dark corners of space, the hunter's empire would hear of this night, of the runaway they failed to catch, and of the human who stood against them. And they would whisper a new word with fear: human.